Hello and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Review. So today I'm going to do ranking the songs or looking at the best songs from a year. We're up to 1992. So what we got here is a pretty good year. Obviously the grunge era, if you want to call it that, is moved properly. It's proper going now. 1992 is huge for some good grunge bands, if you like, but there's still a mixture of a little bit of thrash as well, and still some great bands going from the 80s. So it is again a really good mixture of songs. So I've got 12 songs I want to talk about, and there's a lot of variation, like I said. So we go from 12 to 1. These are all my favourite songs, by the way. But what I've got here is I've got some albums that are some of my top albums of all time, and I could have literally filled the list up. So I've had to choose one song. I didn't want to do loads of songs from the same band. So without further ado, we go number 12, and Faith No More, Midlife Crisis from Angel Dust. So this was a single, definitely my favourite song off the album. That's why I put it on here. And Angel Dust for me, it was a really good album, and it's probably known amongst fans as could be their best album. Very experimental, but for me it wasn't as good as The Real Thing. I love the more straightforward music on The Real Thing, and I think that was where they was at their height for me. But Angel Dust still has some really good tracks, and Midlife Crisis is an excellent one. So that's my number 12. My number 11, Stone Temple Pilots and Dead and Bloated off the Core album. So this was a huge band for me back in them times. This was the debut album, and a couple more albums they done were brilliant, but I think the debut was where they was really good. I mean, the Dead and Bloated, what a track to open with, really menacing track. I know they was sort of mixed in, put into that genre of, grunge at the time. I don't know so much. They were different. They shouldn't have really been put in that category, but they was. I suppose it was just the time that they came out. But Scott Weiland, obviously, brilliant soulful voice and excellent debut album. Dead and Bloated, just it's so heavy. It is absolutely brilliant. What a name for a song as well. Right, my number 10, British band Thunder and Low Life in High Places from Laughing on Judgment Day. So this was their second album. I remember getting this and thinking that it was really good. I really got into it, but I know that sometimes you want bands to put as much on an album as possible, but I think this was a bit too long, this album, and it was about 14 or 15 songs on the album. I think it's when CDs were just really kicking in and you could put more music, and I can understand that. But Low Life in High Places, just to get back to how good that song is, that is typical brilliant catchy Thunder. We're talking slow bits, heavy bits, this is where they really excel. And when that song kicks in from the slow bit at the beginning, what a classic song. That could have been on their debut album for sure. Excellent song. That's my number 10. My number 9, love this one actually, because back when I did the albums of 1992, I didn't include this, and I would now. So I've got a chance to talk about them, and that's FM and All or Nothing from the Aphrodisiac album. So yeah, I mean, this was mentioned to me. I did like FM when I spoke about the best albums, but their first couple of albums I liked, and then I sort of left them behind. Going into the 90s, I sort of forgot about them. But then I went back and listened to All or Nothing. Someone actually suggested it as I could do a reaction. Check out my reaction to that. Brilliant song. Absolutely brilliant. And it had to make it into my top tracks as well. Outstanding song from FM on here, off the Aphrodisiac album. Love a bit of AOR when it's done right, and FM do it right every time. My number 8. Probably a bit surprised, going to fall a bit further on my list than some people probably think it is, because I always talk about this band, but that's Iron Maiden and Fear of the Dark from the Fear of the Dark album. So yeah, this stage of Iron Maiden, I actually went off of Iron Maiden a little bit back in the day when I was younger. from the Seventh Son album, believe it or not, and then that's looked at a classic now. So everything from then back to when they came back with Bruce, I sort of, at the time, I left behind. Um, but this track, I can sort of see some good parts in these albums now, more than I used to when I was younger. But this is definitely the standout track on a not so good album for Maiden. You know, the trouble is, they have to live up to expectations, don't they, Iron Maiden? So when they bring out an album that ain't quite as good, you know, they take a lot of stick, and probably from me as well. You know, I didn't get into it because it just wasn't classic Maiden. But even their all right albums are brilliant, you know. And Fear of the Dark, what a classic track. And the main reason I chose this one, I don't even think it's one of their best tracks. I just think that there's so many memories here when I've seen them a few times and they played this, and it's a real crowd pleaser. And I think that sort of made me think to put it on this. That's my number 8. My number 7, another band that I left behind a little bit, but sort of went back to them later on in my years, and that's TNT and their song Lionheart off of Realised Fantasies. So, yeah, Realised Fantasies, I didn't get the album. I sort of went off them a bit after, what one was it? Intuition. So I loved Intuition. Then I left them for a while. But that song, Lionheart, I love it. The chorus in that is just one of the most... It's weird. It's not really... I wouldn't say it's like too catchy or too cheesy, but it just sticks in my head. As soon as I heard that song, and I replayed that song so much, Lionheart is a brilliant ballad. I love ballads as well. So, my number 6, Pantera and This Love from Vulgar Display of Power. And I was looking through the tracks on this, wondering what one to choose. But I think this was, you know, obviously this album's so heavy, but I don't think they obviously went full heavy on the next one, you know, on the next album, Far Beyond Driven, and, you know, they didn't let up from there. And I like it when Pantera slowed down a little bit, you know, and I think Phil Anselmo's voice he's really underrated, really. He can sing some softer stuff brilliantly, and I've chose This Love because I think it's the way it goes from slow to heavy, it makes the heavy parts even heavier, you know. Brilliant song from Pantera. My number 5, quite high up on the list for not such a well-known band, but Steelheart and Loaded Mother from Tangled in Rains. This is, for me, is their outstanding album from Steelheart. The vocals from this guy, I think it's Milo Majestic or something, Majestic, fucking hell, I can't even pronounce it, you know, have a go at me later, but he's surely got one of the best voices in rock and metal. He, you know, I'm not always into the singing high, you know, but he, oh my god, some of the heights he could reach. And obviously he was used for the Rockstar, the film Rockstar. If you've ever seen that, their music, Steelheart, was used for that as well. And the vocals are absolutely out of this world. You wouldn't believe some of the heights this guy can reach. And that song is so heavy as well, you know, and it was round about, obviously, the difficult stage for the band. All this different music is coming in. They sort of stuck to their roots but became a bit heavier. Sort of reminded me of, they're nothing like this band, but they sort of went a bit heavier, a bit like Skid Row did, to try and compensate, I think, for the way music was changing, but still proper rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? So, excellent song, Tangled in Rains. My number 4, Lynch Mob, Dream Until Tomorrow, off of their Lynch Mob albums, their second album. So, love this band, especially those 2 albums, the debut and the Lynch Mob album, the second album, and Dream Until Tomorrow is another one where I've gone for the sort of slower track, more epic-y sort of track. I love the way it changes halfway through. There's completely changing the song. Oh, it's that weird cat again. Complete change in the song, and it just brings out that whole second part of the song. It's like 2 songs in one, if you like. I love it. My number 3. When Ronnie went back to Black Sabbath, it was like the best thing ever for me. So, Dehumanizer came out, and the song I've chosen off of this, and I was thinking it could have been so many. Computer God, I was thinking, oh, what a classic way to open an album. But I went for the song I think this is underrated as well. One of the best Sabbath songs from Dio. Obviously, I love the Dio era Sabbath, but even if you look at all 3 albums, 4 if you include Heaven and Hell, But if you actually look at, you know, all those 4 albums that Dio done with Black Sabbath, this one is right at the top of those, and that's saying something. All the classic songs that came out. My number 2, Rage Against the Machine, Know Your Enemy from Rage Against the Machine. So, wow. When this band came on the scene, I just couldn't believe it. So aggressive, so different. And you know, there was a lot of these rap bands as well that came out around that time or just after it, trying to emulate what Rage Against the Machine did, but they could never get it like they did. They never had the aggression. They never sounded like they really meant it like Rage Against the Machine did. Probably another band that did is Downset. They're probably another band that really sounded like they meant it, you know. But had the energy and the aggression there. Couldn't believe what I was hearing, Rage Against the Machine. And this is another song where I was just looking through the tracks thinking, you know, I love this one because it has loads of change-ups through the song, quiet bits, then to loud. That's what they were great at, wasn't it? So Rage Against the Machine, my number 2. And my number 1, this was actually from my number 1 album as well when I did the ranking about a couple of months ago, and that's Alice in Chains, Down in a Hole I've chosen, off the Dirt album. So when I said at the beginning about I could literally fill up it could have been 12 Alice in Chains songs off Dirt. Dirt is flawless from beginning to end. You know, what hasn't been said about the album, you can't add any more. It's a real favourite with all the fans, and you know, it's you try to think, oh, you know, be a bit different and choose another album that might have been your favourite, but you can't disguise the fact that this was a classic of all time, not just of Alice in Chains, not just the grunge era, not just of the 90s, and I mean rock and metal all together. This was the pinnacle of their career for me, and they haven't hit it since, although they've brought some brilliant material out, even with the new singer. I think this was their best album they've ever done, you know, and it's just something where you think, could they ever do anything like that again? I don't know, but they captured something that was, you know, it captivated me, this album, from beginning to end. And Down in a Hole, so sad, such a sad song, but a quality song, an absolutely quality song, absolutely love it. That's my number 12, no, my number 1, sorry, so that's my 12, I mean, that I hope you like the list. If I've missed anything off, you think that I should have included, let me know. I might have missed it off because I just don't like it. It might be that I haven't heard it. So just let me know. Any suggestions, that'd be great. Let me know what your top 12 are, top 10, top 3, whatever you want to do. Let me know what you think of the songs I've chosen. Please, if you want to subscribe, press the red button, bottom right hand corner. Cheers.